Good evening. I'll give it another minute or so. There's still a number of people joining. All right, good evening. I'd like to open the October 18th meeting for the Wakefield Conservation Commission. First up, we'll do roll call. Ken.
Here.
Jim. Oh, I see Jim has joined. Jim, unmute, please.
I did.
Okay.
Savan is not going to be here tonight, just to let you know.
All right, thank you. Peter.
Here.
Teresa.
Here.
And we know that Paul is on vacation. All right. First up is the approval of the minutes from October 4th. Any questions or comments? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes from October 4th?
I move to approve the October 4th minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Jim,
Yep.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. All right. First up is 100 Hemlock Road. It's a continued public hearing for Northeast Metro Tech Vocational School. Do we have a file number?
I don't know.
Last time I checked, which was Friday, we didn't.
Okay. All right, so I will remind the public that the commission will ask questions. I will open it up to the public at some point, and anybody wanting to ask a question will raise their hand through Zoom, and I'll do my best to call on each person in the order that I notice any raised hands. And remember, please keep questions to our jurisdiction and our interests, which are the wetland resource areas, riverfront areas, buffer zones. And that being said, we'll kick it off.
So David Conway, Niche Engineering for the applicant. Thanks for having us tonight. I think what the plan was for tonight, we discussed a little bit in the first meeting, was that we were going to talk about the performance standards. So along those lines, we have Andrea Kendall from LEC Environmental Consultants. She's a senior wetland scientist. She's going to walk us through the performance standards as they relate to wetlands and wetlands mitigation, specific to the project. And then Paige Simmons from Niche Engineering, she's a senior project engineer for the project. And actually both these folks are on the site walk too. So if you were there, you got to meet them. We'll walk us through an overview of the stormwater drainage and the performance standards and the stormwater management standards for the stormwater piece. And then there's also some follow-up from the first meeting. which Rebecca sent out an email. I'm not sure if it went to everyone, but I think it did, which was just some outstanding questions from the first meeting that we wanted to provide you, and we can do that after pages. So it was, key dimensions, number, some number of trees in the buffer zones and land disturbance numbers. So we can go through those and how we put, that methodology at the end after that. So if that sounds acceptable, I will turn it over to Andrea to walk us through the wetlands performance standards.
Yes, please proceed.
Great. Paige, I don't know if you're able to share your screen for the wetland replication area. Does she need permission?
Sure, I can pull
She
that up.
should be all set.
Okay, great. Thank you. Andrea Kendall with LEC. I'm going to go through the BVW impacts, both permanent and temporary, and then describe and show where the wetland replication areas are being provided. As we reviewed from last meeting, the wetland impacts are associated with the entrance drive from Farm Street heading north. And in order to reduce the amount of impacts, retaining walls were implemented adjacent to wetland 1, adjacent to wetland 3 and 3A, and also 4. 2 of these wetlands that are BVW 1 and 3, and am I able to take control as well? I don't know these details, but if we can zoom in, Paige, to the wetland impacts at the 1 series wetland, thought it would be helpful to look at that. The area in red hatch are the impacts. There are 2 permanent impact areas amounting to 840 square feet combined. There are also temporary impacts for when the retaining wall is installed, when the wetland replication area is constructed to tie into grades. The area in green is the wetland replication area. It's between the wetland flags where we're putting it is a pretty abrupt change down to the wetland, and I was able to review it at least with Matt in the field from BSC group. It's a pretty wetland system there. So the intent is to carry those grades in the wetland, lower the elevation in the upland down to the proposed grade. If we don't encounter wetland soils there, we'll excavate a foot down further and then place wetland soils in. A series of hydrophytic plants, wetland plugs, shrubs, trees, and ferns will be installed within the wetland area. And then as we grade up to join the grades in the upland, we'll be proposing a buffer zone restoration adjacent to there. And there we'll be putting in trees and native trees and shrubs. The same approach is planned over at wetland 3, where we're proposing 403 square feet of wetland impact adjacent to the retaining wall. And then the wetland replication area size is 863 square feet. We'll be cutting back the contours, lower the grades, put in wetland soils if needed, and then planting it. and then also planting the buffer zone area. We are, in terms of isolated vegetated wetlands that aren't subject to jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act, that amount, we are impacting 213 square feet between wetland area 3A and 4. The amount of wetland replication that we're providing, the total is 2,214. Even if we were to, we are, providing mitigation in total for all the wetland impacts. And when we consider both BVW and IVW impacts, we're providing a 1.5 to 1 ratio of replacement to impact. So if we didn't consider the IVW, then and just taking into consideration the BVW, we're providing a 1.8 to 1 ratio. So we're more than exceeding what's required under the Wetlands Protection Act, which is a 1-to-1 replacement. As I mentioned before, any impacts to the temporary impacts will be restored in place in kind, with whether it's seed, shrubs, trees, whatever might be impacted from the construction activity. We're anticipating a couple of feet or 3 feet, I don't recall, but maybe Mitch can clarify, a little bit offset from the wall to provide a little bit of space to actually construct it. Each of the impacts, we're providing wetland replication very close to the impact areas, and that's one of the requirements under the Act. We will be monitoring this for 2 years at a minimum, until everything meets its performance standards. Vegetative cover and success. Will be looking for and monitoring any introduction of invasive species during that time, and we'll be providing yearly reports to the commission. Any impacts as it relates to the wetland replication area before I move on to the crossing?
I just have a couple of questions. As I understand what you're saying, like for this area that you're on wetland replication number 2 area, I know you're regrading around the existing topography to make that depression and do all that stuff, right?
Correct.
Are these plans that you're showing here showing the existing grades or the proposed contours outside? Outside of the. Well, actually, I'm just trying to figure out if all these contours here are going to stay the same. There's nothing going to happen out here. Nothing has to happen out here to do your work around the.
Right.
The
So
is that correct?
Yeah, the dark line work are the proposed grades, and the lighter line work, the dash line work, are existing grades. And we'll be working pretty much in that footprint of the tree hatch to get the grading to blend in back into the existing grades.
Right.
So we'll be excavating out, moving that material out of the of this particular area, and whether if it's suitable for reuse elsewhere on site, or that will be incorporated, or it'll be trucked off site.
Okay, so that is the extent of grading.
Correct. Yeah.
So now, is this discharge point an existing discharge location in the field? Or is this a point that you're making? Where you've got this coming underneath the road and it goes the other side of the road?
So that little finger that there, at some point in time, somebody excavated that channel. It looks very historic. It's hard to say when, but it probably was an isolated wetland at some time. And when that feature was excavated, in essence, it created this little segment of an intermittent stream, because at least on an annual basis, there is flow coming out of wetland 3 into that and then dissipating into the forest.
It's coming out of wetland 3.
Correct.
What
It-
is that?
Yeah, so it flows down, I'm gonna say plan south and then plan west.
Right.
And then it just, that channel feature ends, and then the water just fans out. So we're gonna be maintaining that feature through the installation of a 12-foot wide, 3-sided culvert. It's 3 feet tall, it's about
Mhm.
30 feet wide. And then there are retaining walls or wing walls from
Mhm.
the top and bottom, just
Yeah.
to further limit any impacts to the wetland and stream system.
Can you move over to the other one, the bigger area that you're
Wetland
gonna,
1,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're showing the perimeter of the BVW, so all the grading that's shown around it is not gonna be touched, correct?
Right, the limit of work, yeah, everything else is, there'll be erosion controls at the limit of work to prevent any construction equipment from inadvertently, going in there. That will be clearly marked and installed in the field. And everything else, the only activities adjacent to that or just inside Wetland Series 1 is just all associated with that driveway and installation of the wetland replication area.
Mhm.
So it looks as if you were to cut into the ledge to the left of wetland 1, you'd be able to shift the road over a bit and potentially stay out of the wetland entirely. I do know there's, we saw the ledge there, but it would be possible to cut into that, it looked like.
So shifting the road to the south might lessen or eliminate impacts to wetland 1, but then it starts to encroach on the other wetlands on basically plan south.
Right, but it looks like there might be room just to curve that road a little bit more to the left or south, plan south, after that wetland. Right where the grade starts changing across, right between the 2 replication areas, across from that wetland 1.
Yeah, so that series on the south, we'd start to encroach. So the geometry for the road is fairly standard. It can't be like silly string. So we more than likely either at a certain point would we be pushing ourselves into the other wetland on plan south.
If who's presenting right now, Paige?
Yep, Paige.
Yeah, Paige, if you could put your cursor between the replication area 2 and 1. Yeah, and then we'll just move slightly plan south, right around there. If the road were to straighten out a bit in that area, yeah, exactly. You would still maintain the same distance from that other isolated wetland, but you'd stay away from wetland 1.
Actually, if you did that, why wouldn't it eliminate permanent alteration area 2?
That's what I'm talking about, both those.
But it could be put on the other side if they had to, where this other little wetland is, the vegetated isolated wetland. I mean, if you
So
had to take some of that out to stay away from the big wetland, it would be worth it.
Yeah.
So just to point out the ledge feature,
Yeah.
sliding it over about 8 feet or so, which I think we'd still be in the wetland. I think we jump up about 17 feet as far as
know,
like
but-
ledge removal.
I know,
So-
but can you really talk about ledge removal on this job? I mean, this is a
Well,
ledge
it's
removal job.
right, but all these are a balancing act, right? So there's an economic cost to ledge. There's
I-
there's a value of a wetland, and there's also a value of maintaining the woods. And that's why we present these, and we're trying to present what we think is our best balance of those different, because it's not always just, there might be more value in a less small disturbance in the woodlands themselves. But I mean, so it could be slid south, but we really, that one would start to jump up really quick.
I've got some concern about the road being right up against the wetland, and it faces, the sun is going to shine from the south, it's going to get all sun all times. And I think that I just think that's going to degrade a lot of the wetland with no buffer zone, zero buffer zone for a lot of this.
And can I just ask, has the town accepted this as the road and not required any kind of sidewalk? And if a sidewalk is required, where would you put the sidewalk, and wouldn't that be further alteration?
So we're working through, like, again, there's competing opinions and wish lists for the project from even outside the project. The project isn't proposing at the current time a sidewalk. It's just something the school kind of didn't want down this. If we were, or we had to add a sidewalk, we would hold the plan at the plan north curb line, and then extend everything planned south would probably be like the least impactful.
So you put the sidewalk on the other side, not on the wetland, not on this side. Okay.
No, it would be on the wetland. It would be on the wetland side.
It could be on the wetland side, but we would hold the curb line. So you can think about it. Maybe the southern curb line would move farther south. So we wouldn't get any closer to the wetlands. We would
Okay, I
try to move away
understand.
from.
Okay, sorry, I'm with you.
Yeah. So we'd hold the curb line on the north side would be the proposal, but again, there's kind of competing interests, and the school's desire not to put a sidewalk on this is pretty well thought out. I mean, it wasn't capricious. It wasn't just because we wanted to save money and not do it.
But you understand our job, which is to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. And
all right. So I'm just talking about like the kind of where we at with the sidewalk, right?
Rebecca,
Okay.
you have a question?
Yeah, why is the driveway wider towards Farm Street and then get narrower as it moves in?
So the driveway through most of its length is 2 lanes, one in each direction. Once it approaches Farm, it becomes 3 lanes because there's a dedicated right turn lane, a dedicated left turn lane leaving the driveway, and then a 1 lane in.
And I know you guys are probably going to a traffic advisory meeting or whatever, but there had been conversations about a roundabout. If that ever comes to fruition, will that change anything for the commission?
Well, it'd be the fitting of the roundabout in there, right? So it would, the T intersection as shown, except for the disturbance of the new driveway, the existing Farm Street stays as is. If the town wants to put in a roundabout, the land for that roundabout, some of it's probably going to have to be on the farm road. So basically, we can't see it here, but it's something we're starting to work through with. That's a T intersection. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can imagine dropping a circle on that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a roundabout and not a rotary. So I don't know what, I think folks in your neighborhood driving through, I think, God, someone's added a ton of them. I think Melrose maybe. So it's like a smaller roundabout, not a rotary.
And I'll just follow up on the sidewalk. I was in that meeting where Steve Mayer was pretty adamant that there'll be a sidewalk. I think we discussed that. I did speak with him again. As far as I hear, he is believing there will be a sidewalk. So I don't know how you guys want to reconcile that, but I get the feeling that there might be a sidewalk.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, this is Joe DeSantis from PMA. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So we actually have a meeting with the superintendent, Dave DeBarry, and Steve Mayo, and DCR representatives to discuss this very thing this week. So we have a plan of attack. It's just up in the air right now. But as David said, the current plans reflect no sidewalk, no rotary, as that's the professional design team's, recommendation for the project.
And is that the meeting, the traffic advisory meeting this Friday?
2 different meetings. So we also have a traffic advisory meeting this Friday. I meant to say that. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, that's right. I'm just wondering. So by the next meeting, we probably would have more information on what is the likelihood of
Both
a
of those.
sidewalk for this. Okay, all right,
The
perfect.
sidewalk and the rotary.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so our evaluation obviously would change with all that new information, potential new information.
Are there any other kind of pending improvements or big changes that may potentially come down the line along the roadway?
Hopefully those are the only ones. But
You see where we're coming from, obviously.
Oh, I do, but no, and I am being a little facetious, but I also was giving myself time to think. But as far as the roadway goes, no, that would be about it. Through the rest of the site and the building, those things are fairly well set too. As things drag on, budgets time becomes money and budgets get stretched. So, if it's up by the school, pavers may become concrete or something like that. But the materials might take a hit, but not like say impervious areas or things like that.
Was any thought given to having the road exit the parking lot just north of that proposed replication area too? So north of the existing road, yeah, coming out straight through there, staying on the property, coming through and going around that, exactly. And then cutting down, yeah, something like that.
So we would wipe out all of that Series 3 wetland.
I'm
And-
not seeing that. Right,
And that geometry would be fairly severe. So we have we have 3 and 3A right there.
right, but if you came off right below that right there, the property line came straight through above those wetlands, basically where the replication area is being shown, and then curve into the existing road. Not sure if you're getting what
Yeah,
I'm
I don't-
talking about.
I don't think we could avoid. Paige, can you zoom in a little bit, because the wetland 3 kind of pops up towards that that corner. See all right, see the fuchsia?
Yes, so
Okay,
north of the fuchsia,
fuchsia,
yeah, north of that and south of the property line.
right. I think we would be in about the same or more impacts to that wetland. If you look at that distance and then look at what a road with walls on either side would require, we would just be probably having more impacts of that particular wetland, just on the far side of it. So if you can zoom out a little bit, Paige, if you just to give us perspective. So
Is June circle shown here, David, or no?
what's that?
Is June circle shown here? Sorry to cut you off there.
No, it doesn't. Like this sheet doesn't go all the far enough,
Yeah,
but
okay. That
if
would
you
be
look
right
at
up
the-
near there, right?
yeah, if you look at our roadway section at this point, though, it goes wall, guardrail, roadway, guardrail, wall. Getting it through that we would probably have the same or more impacts to 3. And then the issue becomes, again, the geometry of trying to get back on a track with school buses and trucks out to Farm Street. Paige, is this drawing, did you put dimension on between that property line and that? I think it's probably about,
Yep, I can.
yeah, thanks.
Let's measure. Mm. Trying to find the measure.
It was there under tool.
Oh, there it is. Hold on. This one. That's what I was looking for. Just make sure the scale's right.
So it's a,
Trying to make sure this was to scale, but it is.
yep. So it'd be about
40
that's
feet,
like a
40.
40-foot corridor. Actually a little less just because of where she tagged it, but the and then oh, we'd have a wall too, which might be in a setback, which might kill us.
And how wide is the road proposed in that area right now, but it's just south of that?
From the face of the wall.
To what would be the face of the firewall? 30, yeah, 35.
And then from the base of the riprap to the other base of the riprap, what would that be? There's quite an elevation change in there.
47 feet.
I mean, it looks like it could potentially fit. I don't know. I didn't look at the grades and see if it's better or worse, but
And I have to apologize because I don't know your zoning bylaw, front and back, but that might be, might not be able to have the walls that close to the property line.
the large rectangle to the right of that area above the riprap, what is that?
Maintenance building.
Okay,
So it's like a garage.
yeah.
That it's, you can see the utilities coming out of the top.
Oh, yeah, I got it. All right, so it looks like that could possibly be an option. I think it's something to look at. It would
Is it an
potentially keep you away from creating that wetland replication area and the culvert and all that other work in that area.
Again, we can look into, we can ask our local council just about the again, I'm sorry, but I think with we would need walls to do it, and the setback's probably at least 20 feet.
Is it an option to push that road plan south to avoid that second replication or that replication area? There's no knob of ledge like there is on the
No, but
first
Paige,
area.
can you pull up the overview, like the whole site, because that just will help kind of frame what the variation of the same answer you've heard from me before, but if you can find it,
Oh, I like this.
yeah, that one.
So the one on the left, the first replication area, the concern there is the bedrock, right? Chewing into that knob.
Yep.
That's most of the concern, right?
Yeah, and then you push the farther away from one, which is the first one, and it pushes you into the non-jurisdictional series 2, which it's non-jurisdictional, but we still kind of treat it as having value.
But that seems to be a better option.
Well, I
From that
don't
point-
know
from
how
that-
far down you have to push it. You know what I mean? If you can just alter a shorter section, I understand you gotta get buses through and you can't, obviously make it a noodle.
Yeah.
But I think you have a little bit of leadway to potentially avoid the isolated, which is a vernal pool, but also be able to avoid the area to the north. But I understand there's bedrock there, so that's a concern for you folks.
And then why I asked this one to come up is because the way we divided up the sheets, they're kind of centered around the wetlands. So you kind of look at we end up looking at each one. But for this next series, which is a 3 and a 3A, We talked about going to the plan north of it. Now we're talking about like, can it slide farther down to go plan south? And that's when I think that wetland series is series 4. It starts to push it down towards that.
Right,
Yeah,
but
series four.
I guess that, you know, question I have is how straight does it need to be? You know what I mean? You know, can you have a potential sweep where you're still doing the crossing over that excavated ditch, but have a little bit more of an arc that you're not being pushed into the other one. We're just thinking of being maybe a little creative and
Yeah.
a little not having everything straight through and curving a little bit to potentially work with it.
Right. So you know what we have on our screen now. I mean, for the impact on the Plan South Series 4, we're right up against it, which we're minimizing by a wall. So we try to pull away from 3. We're going to wipe out probably 4 in its entirety, even with a wall. And so these are the kind of the Sophie choices we made was we went through this is to try to minimize the impacts without like just, you know, taking one out completely or something like that. You know, we were trying to treat the non-jurisdictional ones as they have value as well. You know, we're providing infrastructure around them to kind of maintain it. So it's, and then also, you know, we're limited by like the geometry for a driveway that's going to have school buses, truck, you know, the occasional truck on it. But these are, we can kind of look and maybe do some sketches and kind of some test fits, but it's where, you know, we're kind of, you know, you know, it's kind of moving chairs around on the deck. And you know, as far as we get closer to Farm Street, that if we slide it Plan South down at the entrance, you know, it's those impacts to get that road in, the type of construction to get that road in becomes much more invasive, right? So it's trying to balance that as well. And it, you know, and it's not cost, but it's, you know, it's a lot of ledge removal versus, and this is kind of the case before you, right? It's a lot of ledge removal versus, you know, some trying to minimize some wetland impacts and then providing some new healthy areas for the wetlands themselves to grow in. But I'm not telling you anything you don't know already.
Did you do any soil sampling in that area?
We did, I think the board's aware, we did test pits site
Was
as
that
part
the
of the
last
project.
3? That was the last 3 test pits that you dug?
I wouldn't, again, I don't know what the last 3 are that they did. No, because we actually did some at the baseball field were the last ones that we did.
So
just-
you putting Caltech chambers in there? Is that what that is?
Yeah, and so if we want to move on, Paige can kind of walk through the stormwater. She has some graphics prepared for that.
Okay.
At your discretion. At your
David, I'm
pleasure.
sorry, but before we move on, I think we should know where we stand with that in terms of any kind of follow-up requirements, because I think there's if you don't, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if I butt in for a second.
Yeah, no, please go ahead because.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, thank you. I think just for our team, you know, we have our professional engineering recommendation that, you know, LEC, Niche, Warner Larson, their team has looked at minimizing the impact to this area through the current placement. And I think any kind of follow-up test fit that you ask us to do will likely result in that same kind of stance because they've already done this in their own office. They may just not have the nice graphics to show it. But with that said, I think we should just be on the same page about how to move forward on this one and keep us moving through.
I mean, I think our take is we'd like to minimize the need for replication. You know, it doesn't always go well. and you've already got something that's functioning, then you're taking that away and trying to replicate it. So I think our point is, if there's a way to reduce the need for replication by making some slight adjustments to the road, that would be what we'd be looking for. I understand, there'd be more cutting or blasting potentially at the Farm Street end, which you'd probably have to do anyways if you're going to end up with a sidewalk. But it looks like there's an opportunity there that could make things better for us. And then the other spot up near replication area 3, I think it was, I would like you to look at the possibility of, if a road could come in above that wetland below the property line and avoid that wetland altogether. Don't know if it's doable, again, setbacks and all that, but, at least take a look at it.
Mr. Chairman, is that where that maintenance building is? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the road basically offsetting from an existing location to due plan north where that maintenance building is. So maybe flip-flopping, the maintenance building a little further south and putting the road where the maintenance building is. Again, don't know if it'll fit, but it would be something worth looking at.
Well, and what would you need for us to test this for? I mean, that's a major redesign. Again, I went there with purpose and a year's worth of planning and design. We're in construction documents from design development. We see the grade changes. We see the pivot point of the property line, and you can see where the parking lot is. I don't know that the swag in the road there is practical. We don't want to overpromise. We don't want to underperform. But if you look at that one, I mean, I think that the top of the road farm, if we can swing plan south, we'll look at that. We have, and we'll do a pros and cons on the effects of that. It does get us closer to Harmon Road. It's a balancing act on where you put the light on Farm Street as well, which I'm sure we're going to talk to the traffic commission about. We're not putting any sidewalks on Farm Street. That's not in our project. That's outside of our bounds of work. The only sidewalk that we have to discuss with 2 more authorities having jurisdiction is the sidewalk on the driveway.
And maybe we can look at we can maybe do like a quick sketch or a study, and again, I think the zoning might kind of like be the stake through the heart of that. But we can look going to the north of 3 as like almost like a quick sketch study. But
But you're
maybe
asking, I'm sorry, you're asking relief from us. So just because it doesn't comply with zoning doesn't mean you can't ask for relief from the zoning board. So I guess that in and of itself isn't a good enough reason, I guess.
I understand that, but again, the one at the maintenance building, guys, it really just look at it. Are we being practical on that swap there? I mean, I think it's a worthy exercise to look at how close to Harmon Road, or how if we can shift at the throat of farm in the driveway, and not further impact tree removal and ledge there. I mean, that seems worthy of an exercise. But if you look at where the maintenance building is and the design, the loop road around for the fire department, while still having circulation for buses in the parking lot, it's all as David said, it's a balancing act. We know we're before the Conservation Commission. We absolutely understand your jurisdiction, but it's not a simple exercise. And I just think common sense on that corner right there, if you look, Mr. Chairman, that's a really troublesome spot to try to put a swag in a road, have buses navigate that, plows, fire trucks. That one's a little difficult to kind of wrap my head around.
I mean, it's more difficult or challenging, but it allows you to stay away from that entire wetland series and the wing walls and all the other construction that would need to happen as a result. So you avoid all that work, essentially.
That becomes basically a vertical wall, David, doesn't it? If we took that corner off the ledge? That's just, I don't know how to blast that. That's not practical either. And we're bound by rock on that side as well.
Yeah, I think we can look at this route just in the absence of like the parking lot redesign. Like say like we just say, okay, we're gonna put a 24-foot lanes through here. What would it look like? Can we actually fit it? I think pretty quickly to me now, it's not even just the pinch point, it's then getting that roadway back between 3 and 1 without starting to have the snowball effect of impacting 1. Right, because we're looping around 3, coming in between the 2 of them, and that's those, that road has impacts coming off either of it. Maybe so we could do that maybe as like a blue beam study sketch, Kevin, not like a full redesign, and then maybe we can also look at, is there opportunity to slide? I love like Zoom meetings, I'm pointing and no one can see. Sliding the at 3, can we somehow slide that down a little bit farther south, without starting to pick up more impacts on 4 or the culvert. The culvert's nice because it also provides like a kind of pathway for habitat.
All right, so there's a few things you're going to look at, both around that wetland series B to the culvert and the property line area, and then also down near the end near Farm Street, shifting the road over to Plan South a bit from where it currently is to minimize or actually eliminate any impacts in that area to wetland series 1. All right, so we got those three things to look at. Really, 2 of them are concerning the beginning of the road, and then the last is the exit onto Farm Street area.
So Andrea, did you cover your piece?
I did. I mean, I can, in general, where as that crossing stands now, we're complying with the performance standards for bank and land underwater. I guess I was just going to touch on that a little bit, but I think otherwise I'm done unless there are any specific questions on that.
I think it'd be helpful for you to walk us through the performance standards and how you meet them.
Okay. For bank and for all of the 3 resource areas?
Yes, please.
Okay. So in terms of watering vegetated wetland, I can just go, this report memo was included in the notice of intent application that Niche submitted. There for BVW, there are 7 performance standards. The first one is says that the surface of the replacement area shall be created shall be equal to that of the area that will be lost. So at a minimum, if we are, and this is for BVW, just considering BVW, we're providing a 1.8 to 1 replacement. So, that we're meeting. The second one is in relation to groundwater and surface elevation of the replacement area shall be approximately equal to that of the lost area. And, it's along the same set wetland segment. We're intercepting the groundwater. The grades are going to be very similar to that adjacent wetland. That's wetland areas that are being impacted. The third requirement is that the overall horizontal configuration and location of the replacement area with respect to the bank shall be similar to that of the lost area. Again, we're very close to the impact area. The bank of the intermittent stream internal of the wetland is further, I guess, Plan North is where it really becomes more defined as it exits the site through the culvert to the Plan North. So again, we're meeting that. There's the next requirement, number 4, is there shall be unrestricted hydraulic connection to the same water body associated with the lost area. Again, we're on that same proximate to that same stream system, so we meet that. The replacement area shall be located within the same general area of the water body or reach. So again, for both wetland systems, where replication areas, we are, right next to the impact areas. The next one is in relation to establishing a successful 75% cover of wetland vegetation, and we'll be achieving that through, a planting plan that, and spacing that is general, design approach for wetland placement, and that will be monitoring that for a 2-year period to assure 75% vegetative cover. And then the final one is in relation to the replacement area shall be provided in a manner which is consistent with all other general performance standards. We meet that as well. There's no work that's occurring within riverfront area in these wetland impacts. There's no bordering land subject to flooding. We're meeting the performance standards, the other performance standards for bank and land underwater. So in that respect, for BBW, we're meeting those performance standards.
Andrea, can I
Yeah.
ask you, have you considered and concluded that putting hot top right on the edge of the wetland with no buffer zone will not degrade the wetland? Is that something you studied and made a conclusion on?
There are lots of projects that result in wetland impacts, whether it's crossings or nicking wetland areas in general. This is in this specific area of the wetland. It's pretty dense cover of sweet pepper bush. There are some still mature trees in that area. So in terms of stormwater treatment, that will be achieved. We're providing that same replication area adjacent to it. It's at the discretion of the commission, of course. Is there ever any work that occurs right up to a wetland? Could there be some impacted long-term? I mean, we're trying to mitigate that through meeting the performance standards. We're providing erosion controls during construction. I think the resulting wetland system, there's an existing path there today. Generally, it's hard to see here that occurs in some areas right up against the wetland. So, where it's, we're meeting the general intent of work within buffer zone in terms of during construction
on the
and
engine-
thereafter.
No, well, it's
And
not
on the-
during, it's not during construction. It's when the hot top is in, right on the southern edge of the wetland.
Mhm.
That's,
Sanding,
so this is.
sanding, salting, plow, snow removal.
And I guess I just want to understand whether it's, when you build right up and eliminate the buffer zone across a pretty, substantial stretch, isn't it incumbent on you to show us that it won't damage the wetland, or that if it does, that you're going to, I guess, replicate it or something. I don't even know. I guess I'll ask my fellow commissioners what it is, but I don't think that it's, I just have to think that that's something that's incumbent on the applicant to say that while we are eliminating the wetland, completely eliminating the wetland on a southern edge, and I focus on that's going to be hot sun coming right across the hot top. It's going to heat up the wetland. It's going to take away the light. It's going to take away the shade rather.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to, understand whether that is something that should be specifically considered.
Mhm.
So the performance standards for the stormwater management are meant to ensure the health of the wetlands, so that when we do have roads proximate to wetlands,
It's not just drainage, is it? It's sunlight. It's
Canopy
Um,
lots,
yeah,
certainly. a
canopy. That's right.
concern.
We always talk about canopy, and I'm having a hard time. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding why. I feel like we're just throwing out that consideration, and I
Well,
think
the-
it's
the state through the act provides the requirements for work in these areas. Now, we're trying to minimize the extent practical and also provide the performance standards for the direct alterations that were occurring.
Mhm.
The other matters I think we're going to talk about trees later on, but as far as the roadway itself, the DEP developed the stormwater management standards to protect the waters of the Commonwealth. Now, the piece that
But the point of having a buffer zone is also to protect.
the point of
wetlands,
having
so-
a buffer zone is a trigger. The buffer zone is a trigger for work for a filing. It's not prohibited. It's not a no build zone. So we
It's-
need to make that clear.
I understand that, but it's there for a scientific reason. It is the science, and that is our position is if we had a bylaw, some towns have bylaws, but the bylaws are based on science. I'm just, I guess I think I guess I'll ask my fellow commissioners. I guess I think it's incumbent on 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 the applicant to specifically answer the question of why this, why, having considered this specific question, they believe that it will not degrade the wetland.
Because we're meeting the performance standards for the replication and for the stormwater standards.
If I may, Matt Byrne with BSC Group, I'm the peer review consultant for this project. It is the applicant's burden of proof to demonstrate that the work being proposed within buffer zone won't have an adverse impact on the wetland. This does present a challenge for that question. Clearly a roadway that is located entirely within the buffer zone to a BVW on its southern edge is likely to result in changes to microclimate within the wetland itself. Water temperature, theoretically, the stormwater management should maintain water quantities. That is the goal of that, and water quality. But there are other considerations that the buffer zone contributes to the protection of the functional values of that wetland. And so I think that would be an appropriate thing for the commission to request, that as an evaluation of the project impacts on the wetland overall, address the functional value of the buffer zone in its ability to protect, or the provision of protection to the wetland resource itself. That is the purpose of the buffer zone, not a trigger to get people looking at things, but actually to protect wetlands. So I think it's appropriate for the proposal to address that question.
So so I think we would, to do that, we would need some pretty clear direction on what the question is, and not just the existential question of why having a road here at all, which is kind of what I'm trying to filter through.
No, indeed. But I think Andrea will be a good resource in turning to say, okay, if we have to think about addressing the likely impacts to bordering vegetated wetland, that are likely to occur because of a road situated the way that we're looking at here, what are the ways in which the buffer zone help protect the physical and biological characteristics of that wetland? You're going to be taking out, 40-foot wide strip, 50-foot wide strip of trees, and that is going to alter the insulation of the of the wetland. That will have an effect on hydrology. That'll likely have an effect on, you know, a number of different wetland functional values. And so that's something to address. That is something to put on paper and see whether or not there are additional impacts beyond just nicking 800 square feet. Will taking out all that buffer zone vegetation adversely affect the wetland in any capacity? And yeah, ultimately it is your burden to prove that to the commission, that you're not going to, or that maybe you have to do additional mitigation beyond just a square foot tally for the project impacts, the direct impacts. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, it really is on the table for under the Wetlands Protection Act.
So maybe you can kind of help shape that task.
I think we can contribute to that. Yeah, you know, I've only just begun, so that my peer review isn't really anywhere down the road, but I can certainly communicate some of those ideas and you know, work with Andrea to you know, help kind of put some bounds around that.
Right, because there are pieces of this that we haven't talked about that are included in the project, but we really, because it is, the scale of the project's very large, we've really been just focusing on like jurisdictional pieces. But through Andrea's guidance, there's areas of like trails that, you know, areas where there's, you know, no topsoil that, you know, we're going to restore. You know, they're outside of, you know, wetlands are outside of probably even buffer zones, but there's places where we're trying to like provide some additional mitigation, just because it's, you know, it's the right thing to do. It's not, and it's not related to like, okay, we're filling 2 feet, so we need to give you 4 type of thing.
And I think that all is important and valuable, and, you know, can bring the commission to a place where they feel comfortable with the proposed impacts. But I think that all has to get, you know, put on the table and hashed out.
And probably, again, probably with something with your input once you get deeper into your review. So going on from here, are people interested in hearing about the stormwater? I know that's probably going to be, I know your town engineer is going to be reviewing it. I don't know. So we're not, the idea for the stormwater review was really kind of at a high level of generally what's going on, and not to like put people to sleep with like, you know, inverts and drain manholes and things like that. But basically cover the same sort of ground that we, you know, just to give you an idea of how we're proposing to manage the stormwater on the site, what we looked at and that.
I mean, really, I guess the primary focus of tonight was to talk about performance standards, and we did touch upon that, and Matt really phrased it well. What we'd be looking for. I mean, the first thing that jumps out is loss of canopy. What is that going to look like? What is the potential impact on that, and how is that going to be mitigated? You know, we've talked briefly about, you know, the impacts of salt and sanding of roads. Don't know if it's going to be mitigated in any way with the stormwater. I don't know, Rebecca, did you want to move on to anything further than what we've already talked about?
We have some housekeeping items that we could talk about before you go into stormwater, if you so wish.
Yeah, we are at a little after 8. We did give this an hour, and we haven't opened it up yet to the public. And also knowing now there's 2 meetings on Friday that could change the scope of this project. Maybe we should table any of those items and just take care of the housekeeping items that you have.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Real quick, and these guys are aware, there's still the original outstanding order of conditions from when the school was built. I forwarded Brian McGrail. I don't remember if I forwarded anyone else, an email.
Send it to me.
I did send it to you. Okay. I just couldn't remember who I copied on it, but I did ask DEP how the process, because it was really old and it was at the time of the Natural Resources Council or something to that effect. And they did reply that they should go through the process to request the certificate of compliance, just like the typical process. It'll go to DEP and then they'll assign an analyst. So we do need to get that rolling. I do have one of the original plans. I did talk to you guys a little bit about it, I think in an email today. So the original drainage plans that was referenced, and we have the original order. I'd like to get that cleaned up as soon as possible. I don't know if you guys have started that process. I'd like to know.
So we filled out the form. I was going to email it to Jill tomorrow and CC you. I was going to send her the original order. And then if you want to follow up like that, I'm not sure that plan is the plan referenced.
One of them is, yeah.
All right.
In that order, there's 2 plans referenced and I have one of them, the page G7.
All right. So maybe we send that and then just the offer of like whatever else, but I and then just see where she goes from there.
Right.
Because we have like a new survey if she want, things like that. But we were going to do that tomorrow. We filled out the form and just,
okay.
And then just to get that rolling.
All right, perfect. Yeah, just copy me whenever you send it over, just so I have an idea, because they usually contact us and ask us to kind of information and have we been there, et cetera, et cetera. But this is really old, so I'm not sure how they handle it, but I'm just assuming they're going to contact us. So just keep me posted.
Yeah, and I read the kind of the Board of Selectmen stuff you sent over, and that was a lot to kind of chew through.
There's a lot to find as well. Okay, and I think there was something, and just I sent you the email about some of the outstanding things from the last meeting, the tree count, the area of total land disturbance. Is there a third?
And the offsets from the wetlands for the remember
right.
There was a
sorry.
Yeah, so the first one, I don't have your email up, but it was the distances from like certain features of the road to the wetland. So on the graphic that I prepared and handed out on Sunday and I sent to you on Thursday, there's some key dimensions on it. Also, all these plans are to scale so we can measure off whatever you need. But we in the kind of the staking plan that we provided Sunday and then I sent over to you Thursday, there's a bunch of dimensions on it from distances of walls to wetlands, limit of work to wetlands, curb to wetlands at different points where we kind of get pinch points so people can kind of, I think that was one.
Okay, so we'll use that for that. You use the set of plans that you sent on Thursday for the distance.
Yep, and then anything else we've sent you is to scale so we can measure off whatever it is or walk people through whatever it is they want, particular distance they want to know. Number of trees after the site walk on Sunday, Andrea stayed, and so I'm just going to walk real quick through the methodology because she in a buffer in what we perceived as a kind of typical buffer zone density for an 100 by 100 plot, so 10,000 square feet, counted the number of trees that were 5-inch diameter at breast height or greater, and so to come up with like just a rough density of trees in that area. So we come up with 34 trees per 10,000 square feet. Applying that to the areas where we have buffer zone disturbance, we come up, again, this is 260 trees would be impacted in the buffer zones for the different wetland series where we actually have buffer zone disturbance. And we have a graphic we can provide and just methodology. So I just kind of want to quickly walk through like how we did it, so that people understand it and can take it for what we provide. So I'll provide you this email and the graphic. Well, actually, I'll probably clean it up and put it on the graphic so it's a little bit clearer, but people can see how we came about it. And then land disturbance is previously unaltered land disturbance is 13.82 acres on the site. So it mostly concentrated what I call around the upper campus, obviously, with some very small areas on the lower campus that contribute to that. But 13.82 of previously unaltered land. Acres. Did I say it? 13.82 acres of previously unaltered land.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the, that's unaltered land of, if you were to add it with the existing alterations, does that, they sort of overlap, right? So you're just saying that.
So like the lower campus where like we're turning like
Yeah.
the baseball, I mean the school into a field.
Right.
Not off the top of my head. There's so many numbers. Let me look. Joe, do you remember that number?
Off the top of my head, no.
If you don't have it handy, can you get it for us for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I just don't want to misspeak. But
Yeah, can you
the-
explain exactly what you're looking for, Rebecca? I'm sorry.
Oh, he was just saying it was 13.82 of new, and so I just wanted to know what the total was. So it'd be new plus existing.
all right, we can get you a number for
Yeah.
that.
Next
I'm
time.
looking, oh, I'm sorry. Did I, oh, I'm still unmuted. Good. I'm looking at the, MIPA's revised, I'm sorry, advisory opinion that they issued on May 26th for the project. And the, you know, we submitted the value that, you know, was just previously mentioned, but, I muted myself right there. Sorry about that. There were some additional conversations and there was a potential land alteration of 24.02 acres is in that letter. We can send that over to you too, Rebecca.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably the cleanest thing.
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah. So that includes like turning parking lots into different parking lots, I think.
Yep,
And
replicate.
that would be whatever is included in that letter is, the plan hasn't changed. There's no new areas. There's nothing different. And from what was submitted then to what you're proposing now, it's the exact same thing. Okay,
Yes. Rebecca, do you have the letter already?
it's possible. I don't have it with me, but
Pretty sure we sent it to you.
maybe. But I do want to confirm that it's the same exact plan that they reviewed that we have in front of us.
It is.
Okay.
And that's what I had from your email. That
I think that's it.
Rebecca, I'm clicking send on this to you right now.
Okay.
thanks, Joe.
Send that to Bob too, please, Joe, to the chairperson to share with the rest of the committee, if they don't already have it.
Okay.
Sir.
Rebecca, was there anything else you had?
Those are my housekeeping items.
Okay, any other
Oh,
questions?
you know what? I'm sorry. I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna take that back. No, we had, I had spoken to the town engineer about a stormwater management review. I think the commission might want to entertain having, someone do their stormwater management review. It's pretty big stormwater management report. So I think that's something that you guys should consider. Maybe you guys want to talk about that now for a little bit.
Yeah, we touched upon that on the site walk and also said the same thing. It would make sense.
Okay, so maybe we should tackle that.
I think Matt had.
Right,
maybe had a
Matt is someone,
suggestion.
Isn't that, Mr. Chairman, is that part of Matt's, the additional service we're paying for, or is that part of his scope?
No,
It would be
No.
a separate
No.
scope.
You want us to do more scope?
Stormwater scope.
And who does that? The third party?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, you had a suggestion that you had mentioned.
BSC does an awful lot of stormwater peer review. One of our senior engineers, Dom Rinaldi, would, I'm sure, be happy to provide that service.
Mr.
So
Chairman?
I've reached out to him and suggested that he'd hear from you folks to have a conversation about that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, this is
Yes.
this is a public project. And we can't commit to additional funds that would take us over a purchasing limit for this scope of work. Can I ask, do you competitively bid these third-party services, or how is it that you engage BSC Group, so we can explain this to the owner tomorrow?
We have bid in the past.
Was there a competitive RFP, or, you know, I just kind of, this is, you know, we were told it was $6,500 on top of the wetland specialist. Now, BSC, and now you're asking for drainage review. So what else is coming, and how is it? I think we need to understand how it is you come to contract with BSC Group.
So the first question is, what was the first question? We don't know if there's anything else coming. Probably can't answer that right now.
In terms of third-party reviews, is there anything else you typically ask for? I mean, we can't keep going. We have to keep, you know, it's a public process. We have to assemble a group and put it before them, and they approve it, and then we go back and go back. So if there's any other third-party things that you could think of that you've typically done in the town, if you could let us know. And then the other question was, how is it that you engage the BSC Group? We're being asked to pay a bill, just, you know, you're gonna send us an invoice and that's it, you're asking us to pay it. How is it that you procured BSC Group? I'd like to explain to the owner.
I don't think we've asked for any additional above that for any other project. Don't know if that gives you any level of comfort or not, but I think that's the extent of what we've ever asked for right there. BSC Group we have worked with before. We have a good working history with what they provided us in the past.
So no competitive RFP or
We
selection?
have done competitive bids in the past on other projects. We didn't on this particular one.
We'll go back to the owner. Thank you.
Rebecca, did you have anything else?
I
So we-
don't.
All right, so we do need to talk about what that would look like
Yeah.
with stormwater review.
Bob, one thing we should think about too is that we want to get someone to review this right away because we don't want to hold them up.
Right.
So they're probably gonna need a couple weeks, I would think, to review that drainage report. It's huge.
Matt, could you ask your colleague to send a proposal?
Yep, I certainly can, and that would help you determine whether or not you needed to.
And
install
do
it
that,
later.
do that sooner rather than later?
And availability, I guess, would make
Right.
a lot of sense too.
Yep, certainly will.
All right, any other questions from the commission? All right, I will open it up to the public. We are about 20 minutes behind schedule.
Sorry, Bob, could I ask
Oh,
one
yeah.
quick one?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure the commission didn't have anything to ask first. I apologize, or Matt. Kind of picking up on Kevin's theme of communication with the owner. Are there any concerns that Concom has outside of the driveway? As a way to kind of overly summarize.
We really haven't looked at the other jurisdictional areas on the property yet. And we haven't talked about the Caltech chambers or any work being done in the ball field. So yeah, we haven't even looked at that portion of the property yet. I mean, most of our concerns would be the undeveloped areas where the road is going, the driveway. But yeah, there could be other concerns or questions we have, just haven't got there yet.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions by the applicant or commission? And again, we could be getting a slightly different looking project next time we meet based on the meetings that are occurring on Friday. All right, if there's no other questions by the commission, I will open it up to the public. Please remember to raise your hand. Identify yourself and your address for the record. And remember to keep your questions related to our jurisdiction. Wetlands resource areas, riverfront areas, buffer zones, things of that nature. And we'll do our best to answer them or have the applicant answer them. All right, Bob Brooks, I saw your hand go up first. But you're muted.
How's that?
We can hear you now,
Hear me
Bob.
now? Oh, okay, my name is Bob Brooks. I live at Jewel Circle and I am in a butter of this project. I did have a comment, a question on the stormwater management, but you said you were going to talk about that later, or is it appropriate to talk about it now?
We haven't reviewed it or looked at it in any way. You could ask your question. I'm not sure, where it's going to go, but go ahead and ask.
Okay, well, you could stop me if it goes beyond what you think is appropriate. I did during the sidewalk the other day ask about a question about the roadway, which actually goes in the back of the school. And I got some information from the ScarPack report, Appendix J, and it talked about the amount of water if the post cut slope, it's called cut slope A, which is 650 feet long, 30 to 35 feet high, with a slope of 71 degrees. If the trees are all cut in that area, there's going to be without any canopy left, there's going to be a substantial amount of water continuous through the year. And it did require a 12-foot wide ditch, not only to catch the rocks, but the water. And there's going to be a lot of surface water in the drain. It should be directed away from the slope face wherever possible. The question I have is, where will the storm water and surface water end up draining to?
Which area are you referring to?
Behind the school, the back road that comes behind the school, not the front of the, we talked about the front of the school tonight, but the behind the school continues around where the buses are proposed to be dropping off students.
David, do you know where Bob is referring to?
Yeah, so it as he describes, it's the back of the school. It's well beyond any of the buffer zones. Where it goes could be part of our stormwater discussion. I mean, we're aware of the issue and incorporate it into the stormwater design.
All right, so Bob, that'll be something we cover when we do review
Okay,
stormwater.
that's fine, no problem. I wasn't sure if they would have an answer or not.
Yeah, we'll need to certainly look at that when we talk about stormwater.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer, your hand, I think, was up next.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question about the meeting that Joe mentioned.
Sorry, Jennifer,
would
can you
invite-
just identify yourself and your address, please?
Yeah,
for the record?
my name is Jennifer Fanning. I'm a Wakefield resident on Pheasantwood Drive.
Thank you.
And my question is following up about the meeting that Joe mentioned that would include Mr. Mayo, Mr. DeBerry, and a few of the folks from PMA, in which he said there was a plan to make a decision or try to make a decision about sidewalks for the school. I wanted to ask if that's a public meeting, if that's the traffic meeting or another public meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
We have regular meetings with the DCR to go over progress. And we told them we would check in with them. And this is a check-in with them to go over access to their property, the driveway and general items. It's not a public meeting, it's a
Okay,
design meeting.
But the one Friday
That's
is
a public meeting. I'm sorry. Yes, Jennifer, traffic meeting is public. It's already posted, I believe, on the town website.
but there are two meetings, correct, on Friday? One is a discussion
No,
and one's a public meeting?
One's Thursday.
Thursday,
Oh,
one Friday.
Thursday's a design meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, Thursday's an internal design meeting and
But,
Friday.
Bob,
and I
you just
brought
meant
it
that
up
there's
because
two
we're
different
talking about
meetings.
sidewalks.
yes.
Yeah, because we are talking about sidewalks, so we were being transparent and brought it up. And the second one is the public meeting, and it is it's on the town website,
Okay, thank you.
traffic committee.
Right, Bronwyn, I believe you are up next.
Yes, thank you. Bronwyn Delavolpe, I live at 8 Cyrus Street in Wakefield. Someone mentioned when they were talking about the access road and the sidewalks, who said that they didn't need or want sidewalks? I wasn't clear on who had made that decision.
I don't know if somebody said that. We have a project that doesn't have any sidewalks before us, but there has been discussion about adding a sidewalk from some other parties. So we were talking about if there's gonna be a sidewalk, we want to see it and know what the impacts are.
True. Yes.
And that's not the plan that's before us right now.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Bob. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, so that really doesn't have anything to do with the roadway.
Well, as it
Well,
is now
yes, it would.
before us, no. If a sidewalk is added, it would have some impacts.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mr.
did have a
Chairman,
question
just to
about
follow
the,
up, Mr. Chairman, you had asked, we had said, through the design process, it wasn't included the sidewalk, but if it was to change, we would have to resubmit. We acknowledge that. We would have to resubmit our drawing. and a
okay, so,
calculation.
so Mr. Nigro, in the design phase, who decided not to put sidewalks is what I'm asking.
Building committee,
Okay,
at the
Thank you.
advice of our design professionals on safety and site circulation.
I see. Thank you very much.
And just a quick clarification. There's pedestrian access and sidewalk and walkways through most of the campus. We're just saying there's at present no sidewalk proposed next to the access road that leads out to Farm Street. So we're not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
And someone had mentioned 75% cover regarding revegetating. Can someone define that for me or explain that to me, please? What is 75% cover? What does that mean?
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to reply to
Yeah,
that?
Andrea, could you? I don't
Sure.
recall the discussion.
Within the wetland replication areas, as part of the performance standards of success, we are required to determine vegetative cover within the constructed wetland replication area. And that's just taking plots and estimating coverage of the tree canopy, shrubs, and ground cover.
So that's 75% of what had been removed?
Nope, of what's been planted within the new constructed wetland area.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm not quite getting that concept, but you're covering what? 75% of what?
We're proposing just over 2,000 square feet of wetland replication.
Uh-huh.
And so those are the two in total, we're supposed to have result of vegetative cover within those specific areas of the new wetland that we create.
I see. Thank you very much. One last question is, did we or did we not get a determination on the total number of trees to be removed? Or is that forthcoming?
I think they're working on it.
We answered it.
Dave said he was gonna work on that, right?
We provided that number.
Is
Right,
an
I-
estimate. there is an estimate right now based on taking a sample of the density out there, and that came out to roughly 260 trees. But that's an
That was
estimate.
only in the buffer zone.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, I believe if you've had your questions answered, please lower your hand unless you have additional questions.
How do you do that?
All right, I believe Linda Ireland was next with her hand raised.
Yes, I'm from Melrose, Nell Road. I have a follow-up question on vegetation, actually. I wanted to point out that the vegetation next to the isolated IVW Series 2, which is also a documented vernal pool, was entirely stripped, including a large red maple that was pushed over and is clearly marked. Is there any plan to restore that line of shade and cover?
What area was that in, Linda?
The on the site walk, isolate the Series 2 wetland, which is the IVW 2-9 to 2-9 on your ANRAD submission, where the road runs between the Series 1 and the IVW. That, as you walked along, all the vegetation on the west side of the vernal pool was completely taken down by a bulldozer when those test pits were dug, including a fairly large red maple and a number of smaller trees that shaded that vernal pool. I'd like to know if that's going to be replicated. And I'd also like to comment that the Series 3 BVW, which had B1 to B11, where you're talking about the stream that runs out of the Series 3 wetland, and it was described as going into the woods. That actually continues on a channel for quite a distance into the Series 1. So it loops around and then it loops back. So it's not, I'm not sure if that was really quite understood, but all of these wetlands are feeding into each other, including overflow from the Series 2 wetland also heading into the Series 1, which will be disrupted by that road.
Chair, would you like me to respond?
Yes, please do, Andrea.
Thank you. Over the summer, actually last spring, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation was submitted. Those wetland boundaries were peer reviewed by Oxbow Associates and with very minor flag change here or there. At that time, they also conducted a vernal pool assessment of all the wetlands. I would say, south within between Farm Street and the existing school. They identified wetland IVW 5 as meeting the criteria to be considered a certified vernal pool. They submitted the paperwork to Natural Heritage, and that particular vernal pool is now certified. There were no other wetland areas identified in that year. This year, in addition, LEC conducted vernal pool evaluations of all a kind of a second year of evaluation of these wetlands, except for IVW 5, and we found no information that changes the past evaluation that Oxbow Associates did. So at this point, these wetlands do not meet the minimum criteria to be certified through Natural Heritage. So I just want to make that clear. The commission issued an order of resource area delineation, approving and confirming all the outermost wetland resource area boundaries and associated jurisdictional status of IVW versus BVW in this case. So I just wanted to make that clear and on the record. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fact that it's not a certified vernal pool does not contradict the fact that we have documented spotted salamander egg masses in that pool, as well as full courses of spring peepers and American toads. And I assume that you may not have seen the runoff connections, just because you have not defined it as a bordering vegetated wetland does not mean there are not ephemeral stream and connections between all of these wetlands, which are important for the health of the Series 1 wetland, because it's an interactive system that the road will disrupt. But my question actually was about, what about restoring the vegetation? Because you've said that you will restore vegetation in affected wetlands.
Yeah,
And
I
entire
did
line-
notice that as well, and that would be my recommendation, is to replant that perimeter. So that's something that I'll coordinate with the team on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Jennifer, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do. So because there was a lot of discussion about sidewalks, it sounds like decisions are going to be made about that soon, possibly. It was said earlier that the school building committee had decided against sidewalks for very good reasons, and the question came up in the context of those sidewalks help to provide some buffer between the road and the wetland. So having sidewalks would provide that buffer, but I believe it was David's response was there's very good reasons why we don't have sidewalks there or don't plan to have sidewalks there. And so I wanted to find out what those very good reasons are that justify not having sidewalks that would create additional buffer to protect those wetlands.
So
I will, let me, I guess, start with that one. So the sidewalks would require more disruption to the undisturbed area and require more paving, more cutting, and potentially more blasting. So it would be more disruptive environmentally to add the sidewalks. You're going to gain 6 feet. I don't know how wide they would be, but call it 6 feet of walking space. But that means everything has to be 6 feet wider. More trees cut, more asphalt, more digging, more blasting, and all of that. I'm not sure if I answered that any better or worse than the applicant would have, but.
And if I can just add a little bit, just to reiterate, it's one sidewalk. We're not proposing a sidewalk along the road, so it's not multiple. The accessibility through the entire site is an important feature of the project. So being able to get students who have mobility issues, other people with mobility issues, accessibly through a site, we've made sure we're able to do that. One of there's a variety of reasons why on the access, the driveway, we didn't do them. The chair just expressed, the increased impacts. Also, there's nothing to connect to. It would be a sidewalk to nowhere, and that's just not an acceptable kind of design solution. We can't send people out to Farm Street and then just abandon them.
Yeah.
So.
But it does sound like from I believe it was Kevin who said that if there is a decision that there will be sidewalks, then the SBC project will resubmit the application, the NOI, to the Conservation Commission, because potentially that would put the project past thresholds that would require environmental review.
No environmental review is triggered. All it would do is Mr. Romano, the chairman, is I believe, David can jump in, has correctly stated it's more impact to wetlands. It may cause more wetlands replication. It doesn't trigger anything.
And then just semantics, we wouldn't we would not resubmit the NOI. We would revise the plans.
Revise plans. Which we started off our last meeting. That was one of the first questions. from the chair and Rebecca, and we said if that is the wish of the authorities having jurisdiction and it gets then sent back to the building committee, we would gladly work expeditiously to get you a new drawing.
And I can guarantee you throughout this process, we will be submitting revised plans. But just the semantics being is that to say resubmit the NOI would mean we would physically withdraw this one and then go through the process of resubmitting one, but it would just be a plan revision and plan updates.
Yeah, and just to be clear, my understanding is that that MIPA does not allow kind of division of a project. For example, dividing future plans from current plans as a way to sort of avoid meeting thresholds like that. So, hopefully there wouldn't be an agreement to kind of plan for.
I don't know what you're
installing sidewalks
alleging,
on the road.
Jennifer, but we have an advisory opinion from MEPR, and we're going to provide it to the chairman, and I believe the town already has it. I don't know what you're getting at there. Interesting comment.
Just making sure everyone's on the same page.
Well, I don't, yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know where that was coming from, Mr. Chairman.
All the work currently proposed is on the plan submitted.
Right, so if there is a sidewalk that gets added, we'll have a new plan.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes. Let's see, I do, a couple more hands raised. I don't know the order. Eleanor, you're first on my screen, so we'll take you.
Hi, my name is Eleanor Axelrod. I live in Wakefield, Sheffield Road. I was just hoping you could address on the wetland replication areas. What's the plan to connect it to the upland areas? When I look at the plan that's here, it looks like there really isn't a clear way for migration to happen from covered woodlands down to the wetlands, that it seems to be interrupted by roads or cliffs. I'm not sure the height of the road. I know there were walls, and amphibians have trouble, crossing roads, climbing walls. So can you just explain a little bit how that habitat will be recreated and connected?
Eleanor, is your question, I'm not entirely sure of your question. You're talking about any replication areas or anywhere in particular?
Yeah, well, when I look at their plan on the south, you have the road, and that's cutting off, you can walk along the power lines and you can see snakes, and that you can see critters moving, towards the vernal pools. And then you've, blasted in other areas on the west side. So I'm just confused at how, you can create a hole in the ground, but if there's no connection for these creatures to get to, like, other states are putting tunnels under roads. They have larger buffer areas, but I don't know if that's part of this committee's, like, ensuring that there's a, adequate cover and adequate habitat that's left behind.
Yeah, so wildlife habitat is certainly, a BVW is significant, to wildlife habitat. And the movement of that wildlife in a road would present a feature in some cases where wildlife would need to cross it. There is a culvert proposed in one place on the drawing. I don't know if the applicant is proposing any other types of crossing features under the road. Could somebody answer if that is something that is proposed right now?
So the culvert that would, for the bank, which is associated with 3, is the main connection from the plan south to plan north.
That is the only culvert on that driveway, correct? And there's no other types of smaller, just wildlife corridor type culverts or anything proposed right now?
No, and Andy, who has worked with Dan in her office, and Matt can give you guidance on this too. But I think if you're thinking like back in the days when we would put like a 12-inch pipe under the roadway to connect one to the other,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's like the current thinking for like habitat crossings anymore.
Yeah, I know the preferred is a large box culvert where,
Yeah,
large mammals and everything can pass underneath safely. All right, so I don't know, Eleanor, if your question was answered or not, but it doesn't sound like, other than a culvert, there's any plans for any type of under road crossing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Lee, I think you're up next.
Okay, thank you. I noticed on the value,
Name and address, please.
oh, I'm sorry, Lee
That's okay.
Farrington, Washington Avenue, Chelsea.
Thank you.
I noticed on the value engineering report, there's a storm drainage infiltration reduction item for $637,000. And I'm wondering what the effect would be of cutting something like this.
Mr. Chairman, has nothing to do with this conversation.
Is it, well, we haven't looked at stormwater yet, but is it a non-jurisdictional area?
It's an engineering exercise that is done on behalf of, that the MSBA requires, and I don't think it has anything to do with this conversation. We have a stormwater plan that we've submitted. We have treatment of the water as required by DEP standards and engineering practice. A value management log has nothing to do with the Conservation Commission.
yeah, we're not proposing to delete any of the stormwater that you see presented in the plans that have been submitted.
Don't want to talk about value management logs, please, David.
All right, so you heard the applicant's response, I guess, to that question.
Mr. Chairman, after the last meeting, we did say we have a frequently asked questions
Yes.
tab on our project website. We did receive 2 questions after the Concom meeting. And if Ms. from Chelsea would like to submit a question, we'd answer it for her through the proper portal.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda, is this a new question or is your hand still up from last one?
No, this is a new question. I was just going to raise the point that since the MIPA numbers were brought up and it was said in the public forum that they were the same as previously, I wanted to point out that in fact, the numbers that have just been released in the stormwater report for the net new impervious area is 4.58 acres. The number that was submitted to MIPA was 2.3. The number of the existing acreage that was submitted to MIPA was 11.8, and that has also increased now. So the numbers are not identical, for the record.
Do we know why there's a change in those 2 numbers?
I do not know why.
Does the applicant know why?
I don't know that there is.
Okay.
If you
That's
look,
the first I've heard of it.
All right, could you check into that?
I can submit the documentation for that. It's in the stormwater report.
All right, thank you. And again, we haven't touched on stormwater yet. That is something we'll be talking about at a future meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, it's about 8:50. We're about 50 minutes over. I don't see any other hands raised, so at this point, we will continue to the next meeting, which is Tuesday, November 1st. And as of right now, I don't know what time it'll be on, but that'll get posted, likely at 7, but not sure yet. But it will be on for November 1st. So that being said, we're going to move on to our other business. Does the applicant have any additional questions of us before we move on?
No, I thank the members for, I thank the members for participating in the walkthrough on Sunday. I think it was great. And a reminder to anyone on the call that we do, again, you can ask questions through the NEMT website.
Thank you. Matt, do you have any additional questions or comments?
At this time, I don't. Thanks for entertaining my comments before. Appreciate it.
Rebecca?
I don't have anything right now. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll be talking to you on November 1st. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, your dog is snoring.
No, no, that's not my dog. I didn't know if it was someone's dog or someone's stomach. I was hungry.
Maybe it's Jimmy. Jimmy, where's Bella? I mean, Remy. Is Remy right near you? Sounds like a large dog.
I thought it was your dog, Bob. I really did.
Mine was the one barking like a lunatic outside, chasing coyotes around.
My dog doesn't bark because he's ceramic.
But it's an old car.
All right, Rebecca, you had some other business.
Yeah, hold on a sec. What's next? What did I put on there?
On the agenda I have is update
Oh.
on open space.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that I met up with a member of the planning board on Thursday. Jim, you were there, met up with ZBA. And we have now a representative from the planning board. Theo said that he would be willing to be on the open space and rec committee. So if you guys could go ahead and vote to appoint him, he will be the last member. I've submitted all the names. They should be up on the website soon. I've contacted Horsley Witten to let them know that we've formed our group. My contact there is away doing field work. Probably, I think the email said for the remainder of the week. So most likely we won't get started until the next week, but I will keep you posted.
And what is Theo's last name?
Noel, Noell, I believe.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion to appoint Theo Noel?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Teresa,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. All right. We also have,
Oh, I know Theo. I ride the train with him.
Before you go on to the next thing, I have another question. I think someone sent you guys an email about, is it there's a master plan meeting this Wednesday at Galvin? I think I sent all of you guys the email and asked if anyone was interested in being the commission representative. I must have missed all your emails of all your responses. I think there are so many, they got lost.
I didn't respond. I can't make it. Sorry, Rebecca.
Okay. I'm just hoping that someone says yes.
I'm on the other committee. So.
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, I don't know that anybody volunteered.
Okay. All right, I guess we can move on.
I'd love to. Yeah, I have another meeting at the same time.
Okay.
All right, the other item is edits to tree removal policy.
Yeah, so just when we were talking about the snags, and I think, did I send you the picture that I include now when we get a tree removal request and then I reply back that it's been approved, and if you require them to leave the snags, I put like this little illustration in the along with a letter. Did I send that to you guys, what it looks like?
I don't think so.
All right, I will do that. But what got me, while I was thinking of that, I sent Ken, I asked him to do a little homework, sorry, Ken, and said, check out all of the tree policies in some neighboring towns that have it. And is there anything we're missing? Like, is there anything that we should include or edit or whatever? And I think, Ken, you said you had one edit, right?
Yeah, I think we were talking about maybe more emphasizing putting snags in or making that a requirement. So I'm gonna take the screen if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. And snags mean different things to different people. I mean, there are guidelines. I think either Ken or Rebecca, you sent around some nice information on snags and the benefits and what, should be attempted with a snag.
So
18
current,
to 15 feet tall.
yeah, so currently, there is mention of snags in our policy. It's under the replacement standards, pretty much saying, highlighted in yellow up top, like if you leave a snag, then, you can do that instead of replacement, which is great. I don't know if we do that or if that's come up, but I was just thinking if we wanted to better emphasize it or be more strict, that maybe we, instead of making it an option for replacement, we kind of put it under the mitigation requirements where we just kind of move it up in the, sorry, I can't show, I don't know. Do you see two screens? Do you see?
Just one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't share both of them at the same time. But in the policy before the replacements stuff, there's the mitigation, right? And it talks about replacement ratio or paying money. So my thought was maybe we move the snags up to the mitigation requirement and say, hey, in addition to replacements of whatever you take down or payment, that you leave it as a snag if we ask it. It's just kind of being a little bit, more upfront with it, saying that we actually want it rather than, it's an option down the road. So the yellow wording at the bottom was just my suggestion of putting it in mitigation rather than replacement. So I can send this around. As far as the other stuff, to be honest with you, all towns were all over the place with the tree stuff. It was really hard to kind of weed out. I think ours is kind of straightforward and simple and focused. And, I can look into it more and maybe add some tweaks, but as far as the snags, I think maybe we just try to do it more often and make them do it more often.
Yeah, I just would caution, we need to be careful depending on how that snag would be leaning or the health of that snag, how deteriorated it may or may not be. It could make sense not to have it.
Yeah, no, I put may in there. I don't put it as it has to be.
Yeah.
And is there do we have a definition of what a snag is in this so that we talk about how high it needs to be?
Well, it does say it, yeah. So stand in place.
It's 6 feet. I'm sorry, 6 feet above grade.
Up
Sorry.
to 15. And then my last point that I didn't mention yet was also to provide what it sounds like Rebecca already has done, provide them a little information on what a snag is, just to reinforce it, some guidelines and why it's important.
Is there a minimum size that a snag becomes viable as something useful to have? I mean, if it's a small tree, do you leave it standing there and does it really get used? Or do you have to have a lot?
Any height remaining is useful because it breaks down into the organic layer of the soil. So even if it's a stump, it's preferable to leave it in place because it's broken down by the insects and then it's.
No matter what the caliper is, Judy?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm saying for a 6-inch diameter tree.
Yes, if they left a 4 foot, that would be fine. It would still provide a beneficial effect to the soil.
When it falls. But
It does, no. If it's standing or if it's falling, it can support habitat when it's still standing. And then as it breaks down, it contributes to the nutrient level of the soil.
Yeah, when it breaks down for sure, but I'm thinking like I don't know.
But if it falls, it's the same thing.
Yes, if
breaks
it falls,
down,
yes. But a
and it still
3-inch
provides habitat.
a 3-inch diameter tree that's 4 feet tall, while it's a snag, isn't going to provide any habitat at that point. Until
Right,
it
but
does
you wouldn't
fall.
have anything to do with a 3-inch diameter tree anyways.
Even a 6-inch
Right, the
potentially.
minimum 6 inches.
Right. Even a 6-inch diameter can still provide habitat value. Things
So
can
that,
survive.
that would be part of our review process, right? Just, if
Right,
it's in the
right.
middle of a lawn and it looks terrible and
Exactly,
it's not going to be helpful, we won't make them do it. Maybe you just add some wiggle language in there.
Right.
But, if it's leaning over a stream, it's in the buffer, it's going to help.
Yeah, I think we just need to be careful of its location and condition.
Which we would evaluate, or we have in the past. We're not making a hard rule.
And this language says may, so
Yeah.
as Ken pointed out, so I think it's good language.
Yeah.
That's a very important word that we should be thinking about an awful lot when that's written.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's under requirements, so it's a little contradictory, but
I'm just saying in all ways, when you read regulations and whatnot.
Like,
that
Oh,
word-
as in
definitely.
10.554, for example.
That word may means it's a really good word choice that has a lot of meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Bob, did you get the email I sent you, the little picture that I include with the snag picture
Did you just send it to me?
a couple minutes ago, but I did it through the work email, so it's really slow. I didn't know if you get it yet.
Yeah, hang on.
Sorry.
Yes, I got it.
Just so you can see it. I
Wait
did
a
not-
minute. Sorry,
I
this
didn't
is the
think-
MIPA advisory opinion I'm looking at.
Okay, I sent that
Here it
too.
comes. Snag.
Snag.
All right, let me share. Let's see.
what's the process to change that policy? Wording on the policy?
You have to
You just have
vote.
to vote.
So
And then,
that's that's what-
post it, right?
And that's the little, when you guys require, the last couple that you guys required snags, I included this little bit in there.
Hmm.
I did not create that.
That's great.
It's cute though. Um,
Yeah, it's a nice little snapshot of the different values.
super simple, kind of cute.
Yeah, and that's much bigger than I would imagine a snag would be.
That's just a dead tree.
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
If you limbed it and topped it, then you'd probably have a snag.
That's true. Chop it right above the squirrel's head. So the guys are out of luck. I guess there's all sorts of sizes for snags then.
Right.
Well, don't send anyone out looking for that snag because I have to find it.
Yeah, that might turn people off as far as not wanting to see that in their yard.
Yeah, I mean, that really looks like a dead tree. It is.
Yeah.
Every part of a dead tree's decayed benefits. So that is a dead tree, not a snag, but it's talking about the advantages of snag.
Do you want me to include a different picture?
Do I
I
have a
would
different
include a
picture?
different picture because the first thing someone's gonna say is that's gonna fall on one of my kids.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Those animals are gonna fall into my house.
Okay, I'll find something else. I didn't even think of
Woodpecker's gonna get my siding again.
My bang on the chimney.
Okay, new picture.
But it is very informational.
Rough crowd.
Yeah, right. I just thought because they're likely with too much information, they're not going to read it. So just it was all right. I'll find something else.
Yeah, I
No,
thought
but
somebody
thank you for
said-
looking at that, because snags are not, as you say, encouraged enough.
Yeah.
Does Haley?
Even the word has a little bit of a, they can maybe like dial that up a little bit, I think Madison,
Haley,
I
are
think
you an artist?
you should get involved in,
Are you gonna vote on this or?
What's the question?
Are you any kind of an artist? Can you draw?
Sure.
Can you draw a snag for us?
I think an actual picture of a snag would be better,
Yeah,
more helpful.
How do you know? She might be very good.
I'm not saying she isn't, but I think a physical picture is more helpful.
We found some other stuff. Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
you sent some other stuff, didn't you? Didn't
Yeah.
have pictures, Ken?
I think so.
It was
Yeah.
too wordy. It was too wordy to include in those
Yeah.
letters. I mean, these people already have approval. They have everything. They're done. They're just getting this formality
Maybe
paperwork
just
that says to go ahead. So I thought if we're gonna slip something in there, it should be quick and easy. I don't think they want the education of it. I think they just It's just an explanation of why it's required. Do you know what I mean? But I'll do whatever you guys want. I just thought something, let me look for some more stuff. Let me look and see what I can find. And I'll hopefully send you guys something that if I find something better.
Well, thank you for working on it, both of you, Rebecca and Ken.
Yeah, Ken sent this email on November 18th, 2021, with a bunch of links to websites about snags.
But I definitely didn't gear it towards being simple and.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's a lot of good
Maybe I have some
information on
kids'
these
books that
links.
I can pull up.
Are you gonna vote on that, or are you gonna wait until Rebecca gets more stuff?
You don't need my other stuff. Yeah.
I think we should vote on it and just say, you know, and we'll include a nice picture once Rebecca finds some.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the email from Ken from a year ago.
Seems like yesterday.
It does.
So do you want to vote on it and just say subject to Rebecca putting a good simple picture in it?
I think that's fine. I would be leaning towards a simple picture, like showing what people should expect if they leave a snag. You know,
Well, that and let's see the final wording of the revision.
I could send. Let me put in a couple words and then I could send it to everybody.
I don't think it's anything you want to put in the middle of the yard. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right. Oh, I just found a beautiful snag.
You know, I could put like a little informational page on the website right by the tree policy that talks about snags too.
Those look good.
Yes, that one in the middle there on top looks a very nice snag.
Oh, I got one.
Oh,
I got a Ranger Rick one. Hold on a second.
Ranger Rick might be better.
What happened?
I stopped sharing.
Ken has something he's going to show us.
I'm working on it.
Jimmy, where's your pictures of snags?
Well, look at that.
No,
Oh,
I
yeah.
like that snag.
That's
Right
a
there.
Snag.
No.
That's
You need
too
an
high.
actual-
People,
You need an actual photograph.
Yeah, we could do that too, but I think that's pretty cool.
No, because if I got that, I'd say I'm not 5. I'd throw it in the trash.
All right.
That's
I
just a
guess
little
I can
kid.
agree with that. Yeah, because it's not really representative.
Okay, I have some in my yard. I'll see if I can take a decent picture.
Right.
I'll work on it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All
I'll
right,
stop.
so we'll get some final wording and maybe some pictures.
maybe next time we can vote on it.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Rebecca, anything else?
I don't have anything else.
No updates on Millbrook, right?
No, I bumped them to the next meeting because I haven't received any new information.
Okay.
There'll be a few more things at the next meeting that have been continued over. So Millbrook should be one, and Jim Lane should be on the next meeting. So expect some emails over the next week regarding those. But other than that,
And when's the next meeting? November
first.
First, okay.
Judy, do you have anything else?
I just wanted to mention that the consultant rule that you people have, I think that could have been brought up during the vote discussion. And the competitive bidding does not come into effect until this $10,000 is reached. So I think that was a bogus issue, and I was going to jump in, but I didn't want to get in back and forth with him. But you do have the consultant rule, and they don't have to approve anything, and you can hire 15 consultants if you'd like. The cost isn't the commission's burden, it's their burden. And they can go back and say they have to get more money, that's fine. That's not on the commission.
Right, and the consultant, that policy is on our website, right?
Yes, it is. And I think it was already discussed with them at the first meeting.
Is
Well,
it
yeah,
10,000 per project or per review?
I have to ask that question, so I'm gonna ask if it's because if a portion, and I want to make sure that we're talking in generalities about the consultant rule and not applying it to anything, but there is a $10,000 limit. I don't know if that it's not a limit, it just means that I think at that point you have to put something out.
Good. Yeah.
I
You have to
think
get
that-
3 bids.
it's competitive bidding with what Judy just said.
Right.
You have to-
Right.
Yeah,
So
but I
as long
don't
as-
know if a portion of it is
Stormwater versus,
yeah, I'm not sure. I just don't know. We haven't done that, so I have to figure that information out. So I will, I'll get that information for you guys, and then I will email it along about what the rules are for that.
Did someone look at stormwater for 200 Corner Park?
No, the town did. Town
But I
and-
think that would be helpful to point out when you do have consultants, that this is the rule that we have, and these are the parameters.
Mhm.
So that
Well,
everyone is
you
on
may,
the same
you may
page.
want to bring that up, start the next meeting with that.
or even forward that information to the applicant, so they already have it.
What information? The peer consultant?
The consultant rule that they have.
The
that they work
policy,
on.
well,
Yeah.
they should know what it is.
Yeah.
It's on our website, so.
Yeah, it's well known. I think it's well known.
But again, is it 10,000 per review or per project or?
I don't know that. That's what I
Yeah.
have to find out, and I'll have to ask Tom Mullen. And then, like I said, I will, as soon as I have that information, I will forward it to you guys to let you know what that means. And I don't know what that means.
I'm sure Tom will know what off the top.
Yeah. And I also don't know what it means. So what if you assume it's a certain price and then you have, like, we had change orders because more questions came up.
I think you're probably not authorized to pay more than $10,000, so.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how that all works.
So
I'll figure it out and I'll let you guys know.
Depends how the contract is written, right?
I don't know. I mean, like,
No,
I
it's true. The contract should say,
Not to exceed or,
right, it cannot exceed $10,000 in any event, right?
But that's where the change.
I put my legal hat on there, Teresa.
I know.
Anything else?
I don't have anything. You guys have any questions about anything?
No?
Environmental sustainability is going to post a bunch of conservation articles and topics and things that I've sent them. Because they have a Facebook page that they have a large audience.
Judy, how was Town Day? Did anyone come to, because you manned that, or you
Oh, we
woman,
were very busy.
you
Lot of
woman that, is that right?
She
Yeah.
says she was a rock star.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that. No, a few people had questions.
It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day.
What were the types of questions you got?
What does the commission do? A few people had questions on trees, what the commission is doing about trees around town. One person asked about flooding, things like that.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. It was right, Judy.
Yeah.
All right, any other topics, questions, open forum items? Yeah, if you just jump into make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Like, so make a motion to adjourn. Is that a motion, Peter?
Yes, sir.
Is that a second?
It
Teresa?
was.
Okay, all in favor? Jim,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Good night, everybody.
Night.
In a couple of weeks.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.